Folks, we've got a set Super Bowl featuring the New England Patriots and the Seattle Seahawks. For Seattle, Sam Darnold's officially gotten the monkey off of his back. Talk about that to start the show. Whether he wins or loses the Super Bowl, he is absolutely, without a shadow of a doubt, any elite quarterback in the National Football League. I'll explain why. Also, for the Los Angeles Rams, I think they'll be fine. I don't think there's going to be any kind of hangover like people are suspecting could be the case. As long as Matt Stafford comes back, and he is still one of the 5 best quarterbacks in the NFL. Talk about that. Also get to the New England Patriots. Everybody's kind of crapping on their run because, they went through 3 either mediocre to bad quarterbacks. I'm here to tell you that's absolute nonsense. They've gone through one of the tougher runs to get to Super Bowl 60. And as for Denver, Sean Payton, man, this is not second guessing. What are you doing? Going for it on 4th down early in the game, try to potentially make it 10-0. Get to that. Also, my Steelers hired Mike McCarthy. I've slept on it. I'll give you my take in about 45 minutes to 50 minutes from now. Carving It Up is absolutely loaded on a Monday. So let's drop the beat, baby. Here we go. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving It Up live right here on YouTube, as well as on Facebook, Twitch, IG, and on X. I am Bryson Carver. It is great to be with you on a Monday. As you heard me say right there in the open, the Super Bowl is set. It's down to the final 2, and it's a rematch of, quite frankly, my favorite football game that I've ever watched in my life. Super Bowl 49 back in the 2014 season. We all remember the ending, the Malcolm Butler interception at the one, but start to finish, personally for me, best football game I've ever watched. If this game's even close to that, then we're certainly in for a classic. Obviously, takeaways are not just the 2 Super Bowl winning team or Super Bowl participant teams, but the runner-up in the AFC, the Denver Broncos, and in the NFC, the Los Angeles Rams. Again, takeaways from all that. The Mike McCarthy news, man. I talked about it on Friday. I was nervous. I was really nervous, and it came to pass on Saturday afternoon. I'm not going to spoil my. I'm going to try and keep the poker face until that segment. You're going to want to stay tuned. And by the way, at the end of the show, on a more serious note, my takeaway on what happened in Minneapolis this weekend. Tons to get into on the show today. So let's get right to it. Before we do, feel free to chime in the comment section. Like, share, subscribe. Anywhere you get your podcast, that's where you can find Carving It Up. Obviously, anywhere you're watching the show right now, share it with everybody you know. We would greatly appreciate it. And feel free to chime in the comment section in the chat. Let me know what you think about my takes. But first, the Seattle Seahawks are headed to Super Bowl 60. And the entire idea of the Seahawks team going on a deep playoff run, winning 14 games in the regular season, being as dominant as they were, particularly on the defensive side of the football. This was the number 1 defense in the NFL when it came to overall yardage allowed. We know the players have got on that side. We know about Leonard Williams and DeMarcus Lawrence, Ernest Jones, the 3-headed monster that they've got in the defensive backfield in week 1. My guy, Nick Emenwari, and obviously Devon Witherspoon. But the whole idea was Sam Darnold's going to have to step up. And as much as I've loved the Seahawks team for the entire second half of the year, they've been no lower than at number 2 on Bryce's best 10 since basically November. I've said, and I was back and forth on predicting this game. I ended up going with the Rams for one stat, and one stat in particular, put that up. This was Sam Darnold entering the game against the Los Angeles Rams since 2024. He had more picks and touchdowns than he was 1-3. All right, so he was like, I don't know if I can trust him. And in the NFC Championship game, we'll get to Stafford in about 10 to 15 minutes. Against a future Hall of Fame quarterback who, as far as I'm concerned, is the MVP of the league, Sam Darnold looked that man eye to eye and said, I'm going to be better than you on this particular Sunday evening in Seattle. Show Sam Darnold's numbers against the Rams. He was nothing short of sensational. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 69% completion, 346 passing yards, a 127.8 passer rating, and a QBR 0-100 of 82.9. Sam Darnold was great with his legs. He was great in the pocket, making all the throws downfield to Jackson Smith-Njigba. He got it started on the long ball to Rashid Shaheed, who's kind of like the, I don't want to say unheralded because he's been great in the return game this year for the Rams, but this has been a guy who was a huge addition from the New Orleans Saints. We called it on the show from day one. Loved Rashid Shaheed with the Saints. Sam Darnold was utterly phenomenal. And I think, listen, we're far beyond the point where, okay, obviously he wasn't a bust. Obviously, as I said last week on the show, new rule. Anybody that bombs with the New York Jets or the Cleveland Browns, new rule. It's the Browns or the Jets' fault. It just is. Until we see said player or coach or executive go in another franchise and they fail again, it's like, okay, probably a mix of the two. But until proven otherwise, when a Sam Darnold is the 3rd overall pick out of USC, big, strong kid, massive arm, can move, needed to fine-tune accuracy and fundamentals a little bit, but he had all the upside of a franchise quarterback, and the Jets ruined him for the first three years of his career. No question about that. We knew that. The reason that the Minnesota Vikings, with Kevin O'Connell head coach, Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, Hawkinson, Aaron Jones run the football, good O-line, great defense coached by Brian Flores, 14-3, there's one reason and one reason only that they moved on from Sam Darnold. 2 biggest games of the year, he's bad in both. Bad in Week 18 game at Detroit, lost a chance of the 1 seed. Even worse in that playoff game against these Los Angeles Rams in a road playoff game in Arizona. They said, you know what? We drafted first-round pick J.J. McCarthy. We're going to go with the kid. And Sam Darnold ends up in an organization in Seattle and ends up winning 14 games leading into the Super Bowl. And if you think about not just, obviously the stakes of the game. It's the NFC Championship game. You win and go to the Super Bowl. It's the biggest game Sam's ever played. In the biggest moments. What do I mean by that? What's the money down in the NFL? 3rd down. And nowadays, 4th down. Well, how was Sam Darnold in those particular plays? He was phenomenal. A touchdown, no interceptions, completed 6 out of his 9 passes, 102 yards, and a 141.9 passer rating. So the money downs, money plays, Darnold made all the throws. When it looked like, despite the fumble recovery, the fumble gap by the Rams early in the second half, he throws a touchdown very next play. When it looks like, oh my gosh, Stafford's got a roll, here we go, Rams are going to come back, Darnold answered every single time. And so whether the Seahawks win the Super Bowl in 2 weeks, and they are favored to do so, I'm not going to lie, and I'm sure it'll move in the next 13 days. 4.5 feels like a lot of points for 2 14-3 teams that have been thoroughly impressive all season long. We'll talk about that as time goes on. Regardless of the win Super Bowl, if Sam Darnold throws 3 interceptions and they lose by 10 points, I can still say, yeah, but I saw him in that one big game against Matthew Stafford in an established organization in the Los Angeles Rams. By the way, again, we'll get Stafford. Matt Stafford, against the best defense of football, has cooked them in the last 2 matchups in Seattle. Darnold, despite the bad first 3 quarters in that Thursday night game a month ago, clutch in the 4th, really clutch in overtime. And then from start to finish yesterday was flawed. It was the best game he's ever played in his life. If this game, and I thought the game would come down to quarterback play, because the fact that we didn't trust the Rams defense, nor should we have going into this game. I thought Darnold would play pretty well against them. And as great as Seattle's defense was, I saw Stafford throw for 450 the last time they played. I'm like, Stafford was going to play well. So if it came down to the quarterbacks, respect to Sam, I'm going with the Super Bowl quarterback in Matthew Stafford, who's going to be league MVP and is an established veteran in this league. And so the idea, if you told me coming in this game, Darnold's going to outplay Stafford and Stafford's going to be awesome, I just told you, you're crazy. There's no way that's going to happen. And he did. So kudos to Sam Darnold, who, by the way, can we be honest about this? I know that this gets thrown around. Oh, he's elite. He's top 10. He's top 5. There's hyperbole going on every week in the National Football League, particularly with quarterbacks. At the same time, folks, by any time Sam Darnold has been put in a position with either excellent or solid talent around him, he's been one of the 10 best quarterbacks in football the last 2 years. Minnesota last year, different system in Seattle this year. Show what Sam Darnold's been since 2024. He's been a top 10 quarterback. This includes the playoffs. He's 5th in touchdowns, 9th in completion, 7th in pass yards per game, 7th in passer rating. And Sam Darnold has the best record in the National Football League the last 2 years, including the playoffs. Like, that's men lie, women lie, numbers don't. Like, that's what it is. And so kudos to him. And again, this is the classic example, man, as we talked about earlier, of a guy or of anybody in any industry. If you're gifted, if you're hardworking, just stay the course, because when you end up in that great scenario, you're going to shine. You're going to flourish. We saw it with Darnold last year in Minnesota. Heck, even the year before that, when he backed up Brock Purdy in San Francisco, Kyle Shanahan swore by this guy. Well, Shanahan, I think, knows a thing or two about quarterbacks. Kevin O'Connell does as well. In Seattle, you see what he's been there. So Sam Darnold talking after the game about the relationship he has with his teammates and the relationship he has with the Seahawks organization. Sam Darnold, the man of the hour, after the game.
Sam, the way your teammates talk about you, the way your coaches talk about you, stand up for you, how rewarding is it in the biggest game of the season to have a huge performance the way you did and sort of validate all that, that talk that they support you with?
Yeah, it's great. It's great that I feel that support, not with only their words, but, just with how everyone treats each other in the building. There's a lot of respect that goes around the building. Everyone respects the work that, we all put into this great game. And so, I'm happy to be a part of this team, man. This group and this coaching staff is just, I'm really happy to be here. Happy to be in this position. I'm just going to continue to do the best that I can to put this team in positions to win football games.
Listen, if Sam Darnold isn't the prime example of any quarterback that ends up with the Jets, what have we said on this show for years? The New York Jets, where all young quarterbacks' dreams go to die. Dante Moore, don't blame me for entering the draft, okay? Look what they did to Sam Darnold. So this is one of the great, this is like Kurt Warner necessarily bagging groceries one year. Next thing you know, he's winning an MVP and winning a Super Bowl. But this is one of the great perseverance stories you will see in the NFL. Sam Darnold had every right going to the Jets and bombing, go to Carolina and bombing, to make excuses, blame other people, be a bad teammate. He wasn't. He stayed the course, backs up Purdy for a year in San Francisco, ends up in that great organization that gets the most out of their quarterbacks. Minnesota for a year, and now he's in Seattle, where he is, by the way, probably on the biggest bargain of a is it fair to say the biggest bargain of a contract in the NFL? He's making $33 million a year. I mean, he's making a fraction. I want to say a fraction. He's making 60% of like Joe Burrow's contract. Like he's, and by the way, Darnold's not better than Burrow, but based on the value, probably take Darnold based on the fact that you have the defense that you have. And so, like, I remember a game, the first time they played the Rams this year, back in November. Darnold throws 4 picks. It was bad in the game. The Seahawks almost won that one. And I think it was Ernest Jones or multiple other Seahawks players were just like swearing by this guy. We back Sam Darnold. That's our quarterback. We trust him. Don't none of y'all come after him. This is our guy. Great leader, cool under pressure in the biggest moment, and he proved a lot of people wrong, including myself. And Paris Brown, shout out to Paris here at the Grid Network. Paris has been kind of a Sam Darnold, certainly a Seahawks hater. He said, man, have I been wrong about Seattle and Sam Darnold? Look, I believed in Seattle. Really, when they started like whatever it was, 6-1 or 7-2, whatever, it's like, okay, yeah, this defense is awesome, good coaching staff. Darnold's won 14 games in the past. This is probably a real contender. The question for me was, can Darnold step up in the biggest moments? And he absolutely did. And one thing too, and then we'll move to the Rams, that's really, really scary about Seattle. If you're New England coming in, the biggest concern you have to have if you're a Patriots fan, obviously we'll get to them later in the show, is that Seattle's last 3 games, they've won completely differently. They showed week 18, number 1 seed on the line against the Niners. We can win a defensive slugfest, 13-3. Then last week playing the Niners again, we can blow the doors off you if we have a matchup advantage in that game against San Francisco. In this game, we can win a shootout. Our defense could get torched by the MVP of the league, Matthew Stafford, and Puka Nacua, Devontae Adams, and obviously Kyron Williams did his thing. Sean McVay calling plays. And Sam Darnold can come through for us when it's all said and done. Now, the Pats defense is significantly better than the Rams defense, so that's going to be a different challenge. Again, I'm kind of surprised it's a 4.5-point line. I think it's went down since then to like 3.5. Feels like it's going to come down probably 2.5, 3 in favor of Seattle by kickoff in 2 weeks. 4.5's too much. So let's shift to the Rams though, because obviously this is a devastating ending to a team that, let's be honest, they've got veterans like Stafford, like Devontae Adams, Sean McVay. This is 9th year in the NFL as a head coach. Like, they've been there, done that, went to the Super Bowl in 2018, won the Super Bowl in 2021. They were hoping to get it done this year, and they did not. So, I feel like this game last night, and I haven't really talked about it a ton on this show, but in football circles, in football fan and media circles, there's this whole debate about quarterback wins and how much stock to put into that. Like, my argument has always been, yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo's got one of the best winning percentages in history. I mean, like somewhere in the top 10. Jimmy G is not one of the top 10 greatest quarterbacks ever, as we all know. So there's got to be a level of nuance that comes with that. As I showed you with Darnold, his record's the best in the league. The rest of his stats are top 10 in the NFL. So the stats coincide with the W's. If there was ever a situation where it was an L in the column for the quarterback wins people, it was Matthew Stafford's production on performance last night against the Seahawks. Just go and pull the numbers because he was nothing short of sensational, just like Darnold. 3 touchdowns, no interceptions, 374 passing yards, 62.9% completion, 127.6 rating, QBR 0 to 100 of 81. And you see right there in the bottom, there's the stat. First quarterback in a playoff game to throw for 350 yards, 3 touchdowns, and have 0 turnovers and lose. And we'll get into really why they lost in a second. But this to me, and part of the reason I've said for most of the season, or most of the part of the season where it was a 2-man race for MVP, Stafford and Drake May, is that with respect to May, and he had an unbelievable regular season, is that Stafford, I take the V word implicitly when it comes to, very literally when it comes to evaluating this award. And Matthew Stafford was more valuable to the Los Angeles Rams than Drake May was to the Patriots. Not that Drake May wasn't valuable, but I could think of Vrabel was the most valuable member of the Patriots. That Patriots defense we're seeing in the playoffs, certainly in the playoffs, has been more valuable than Drake May. Matthew Stafford against the Panthers put them on his back in the fourth quarter. Against the Bears, defense comes apart on the throw of the year by Caleb Williams. Matthew Stafford gets an opportunity in overtime. Cool, calm, collected. Let's lead the offense down, get a field goal to send us to the NFC title game. And then yesterday, listen, there's going to be a lot of people second guessing, the McVay going for it on 4th down late in the game. My mindset is this. To me, the knock on McVay is not, because for those who don't know the situation, down 4 about 4 minutes ago, they're inside the 10-yard line. To me, that's an obvious go-for-it situation. Because even if you don't get it, you pin Seattle back. It's a high-scoring game. You need to get it in the end zone. The more confusing call by McVay, Rams score into the third quarter, make it, or either in the third quarter or start of the fourth quarter, to make it 31-27, which ends up being the final score. Why don't you go for 2 there? Because if you go for 2, you make it 31-28. Now it's a situation where, okay, you're at the 5 or 6 yard line. Let's take the field goal and tie the game. Now, maybe McVay still goes for it. Then maybe that's a discussion. I thought that was Sean's rationale is probably like, hey, high scoring game, offense has it rolling, but as we all know in this league, points are never guaranteed, even in shootouts, especially against division rivals and especially against a defense as good as Seattle. But there's a lot of skepticism, I think, for the Los Angeles Rams, not in whether they'll be good next year, because obviously they'll be one of the contenders to win the NFC West once again in 2026, so long as Matthew Stafford comes back healthy. More on him in just a moment. But there's this, this is the type of game that can, really, break a locker room, that can really just be like, oh my God, we were so close. Remember this. 2 years ago, the Rams lost by a single point on the road in Detroit in the wild card game against the Lions. Then they were like 0 for 3 in the red zone. Lost the game to Detroit by a single point. The next year, got to the divisional round. It came, as we said, all offseason, right? No one came closer to beating the Eagles in the playoffs than the Rams did in that snow game. They're in the red zone. Puka makes a catch. Jalen Carter saves the season for Philadelphia. So close. And then this year, obviously, very close to beating the Seattle Seahawks. And very close, to losing those 2 games in Seattle, despite the fact that Stafford on the 2 road games in Seattle was unstoppable. The man had 6 touchdowns against the best defense in football, 6 touchdowns against Seattle, no picks, 415 pass yards a game, 60% completion, 117 rating, 84 QBR. Rams averaged 32 points in their 2 losses in Seattle, but of course you see 0-2 record. The great thing about the NFL, but sports in general, the playoffs in general, eventually, and this is why people have gone on me, this is kind of a negative segment. This is why for the NFL and for the NBA, right before the playoffs began, we did it for the NFL a few weeks ago, what's the biggest reason each of the 14 teams will not win Super Bowl 60? Because eventually, there's no perfect team, as we all know. It's a salary cap league. The bill comes due. And the bill that came due for the Los Angeles Rams is the fact, and this is from the end of the regular season. This doesn't even take into account the 3 playoff games. The Rams were one of the worst defenses in football from late November on. Go ahead and show the numbers. They were terrible since week 13 at the end of the regular season. 27th in points, 27th in yards, 27th in pass yards, 23rd in rush yards. They were bad. Bryce Young carved him up twice. And I like Bryce Young. I think he's got the ability to maybe be a solid franchise-level quarterback. He's not that good. Taking 31 in L.A. And I got to admit, I'll get to Mike McCarthy later as a Steelers fan. Probably a better hire than Chris Shula would have been. I got to admit, because that was somebody I was kind of high on. McVay guy, defensive coach. Chris Shula, according to reports, kind of bombed the report in Pittsburgh, bombed the interview in some of the destinations in which he was interviewing with. Rams defense was bad down the stretch. Couldn't get a stop despite 2 elite Pro Bowl level pass rushers, Jared Verse, Byron Young. The bill comes due. And to me, the The only concern I'd have for the Rams, because if folks are like, oh, the morale, never forget this. They have 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft because one of them is through the Atlanta trade. Now, a lot of folks criticize the Falcons. I was one of the few people that defended them because that pick ended up being James Pierce. Vol, not just because he's the Vol guy, go Vols, but James Pierce had a phenomenal rookie season in Atlanta. Well, this could be mutually beneficial, but the Rams now have 2 first-round picks in this upcoming draft. They can be able to add to that defense. They can be able to draft that secondary. The Rams have always had a strategy. Outside of Jalen Ramsey, they really don't pay defensive backs. They draft them. For better or for worse, that's what they do. Well, they can address that in the upcoming NFL draft. So the Rams are going to be loaded in 2026. The question is not whether Matthew Stafford can be an MVP candidate in 2026, because if he is, obviously they're just as dangerous as they were this year. The question is he still going to be an elite quarterback? And that might sound like an insane question. It might turn out to be an insane question. But never forget this. Matthew Stafford, he just completed year 17. He's going to year 18. Peyton Manning in year 18. The Mount Rushmore quarterback, Peyton Manning, 5-time MVP. Peyton Manning in 2014 threw 37 touchdown passes. In 2015, he threw 9. Like, fell off a cliff. Remember shout out to Max Kellerman, by the way. Max Kellerman said Brady's going to fall off the cliff. Peyton fell off the cliff. You think about even Tom Brady. Tom Brady, second to last year in the league, finished second for MVP. Go back to the tape. I thought he should have won the award. Second for MVP. 8-9 the following season in Tampa. Now, we know there was some family stuff going on with him and the family, whatever, but fell off physically. Is it eventually, and it happens quick in the NFL, to quarterbacks. 2 of the 4 greatest ever, the greatest ever Brady, and one of the 4 greatest ever Peyton, fell off a cliff pretty quickly. Big Ben fell off a cliff pretty quickly after some of these injuries. Matt Stafford, we know, came to the season with the back issues, was unsure if he was going to play this season at all or not. So that's going to be a question for the Rams, going this offseason. As long as Stafford's healthy, as long as Stafford's still great, still playing top 5 quarterback in the NFL football, yeah, they're absolutely going to be one of the contenders in the NFC next year. But I would not worry about, oh man, there's going to be like this plummet in team morale because they came so close. They came close the last 2 years. And if you're a Rams fan, you want to be optimistic. Hey, lost the wild card round 2023, lost the divisional round 2024, lost the championship game in 2025. Well, the next logical step, Super Bowl 61, right? The Rams will be fine. Sean McVay talked after the game about Matthew Stafford's future with the franchise.
Matthew Stafford to be back next season.
Yeah, if he still wants to play, what the hell kind of question is that? The answer, yeah. You have to ask him. We've been totally present. I know that if he wants to, he's still playing at a pretty damn good clip. He's the MVP of the league, and if he's not, I got respect for everybody else, but this guy played at a level that's just different. I appreciate you guys this year. Thank you.
I agree with McVay. That's no disrespect to Drake May, but I think I've had a saying on the show. It mostly has applied to the NBA, but it applies to the NFL as well. You validate you being MVP in the postseason. Stafford's done that more than May. And we'll get to the Patriots in just a few minutes. I see my guy, Tim Barner's in the comments. Shout out to Tim, Boss Sports Summit. It's a hard knock life being a Patriots fan, man. I'll tell you what, you have the greatest dynasty in league history. You have a few lean years, and you're back on top with a great coach and quarterback. Tim says, I don't want any slander against the Patriots and their schedule. Hear my take on that because I'm going to defend y'all on that in just a moment. He also says, outdoor games are freaking balls. Agree with you. It was crazy, but how are those not exciting? Lutz, the dome kicker, and Borgalis is from Miami. No wonder neither of them can make their kicks. Yeah, it was, honestly, I was watching that game. Obviously, again, we'll get to Broncos and Patriots right after the 1 minute break. I was watching that game thinking, man, all the more respect to Adam Vinatieri for making those kicks in the snow against the Raiders back in 2001. The famous tuck roll game, but it was just you think that it was bad in Denver yesterday? It was a straight up blizzard in Foxborough Stadium back in 2001 between the Pats and Raiders. But we'll get to New England back in the Super Bowl for the 12th time in their history, which continues to extend the most Super Bowl appearances in NFL history. Also get to Sean Payton's decision to go for on 4th down early in the first half. Talk about all that on Carving Up Live. We're not going anywhere, folks. Stay here in just 1 minute, talking New England Patriots. back to Carving It Up. Appreciate everybody for stopping by on this NFL Conference Championship Reaction Monday. First of all, hope everybody out there is staying warm out there. It's crazy. You know, you watch the game in Denver yesterday, Patriots and Broncos, and it's just this absolute blizzard from like mid-third quarter on. And they even showed the shots in New England. You know, had the Patriots beaten the Raiders in week 1, they would have hosted the conference championship game, and weather would have been even worse at Gillette Stadium. And you see the weather all around the country. It wasn't that bad back at here in Tennessee yesterday. Today, wake up, snow everywhere. It's like, okay, icy roads. So we're getting our portion of this winter storm here in the South, I guess, here today and maybe even tomorrow, because it's cold. I'm not gonna lie. I listen. At this time last year, I was living in Florida, and gosh darn it, I miss it. But let's get to the New England Patriots, who are on to the Super Bowl for the 12th time in franchise history. That's more than anybody in the NFL. And there's been this, to be obviously the Denver Broncos 10-7. We'll get to Denver in about 10 minutes. There's been kind of this narrative, and my guy Tim Barner pointed this out in the chat, and other Patriots fans have talked about it. Hey, man, everybody's been knocking us because we had an easy schedule. And by the way, that's true. They had by winning percentage since the merger, they faced the 8th easiest schedule in league history. Now we have seen, and I pointed this out, we have seen 2 of those teams win a Super Bowl. If you think about the 1999 Rams, and if you think about the 1972 undefeated Dolphins, top 8 easiest schedules in league history, both won the Super Bowl. You got to validate that record in the postseason. The Patriots obviously have done that. They're in the Super Bowl. And folks are talking about, man, the schedule is easy and the path to the Super Bowl was easy. I mean, you played Justin Herbert in round 1. We know. We know. I certainly know about Justin Herbert's postseason foibles. Then he plays C.J. Stroud, who by halftime, we're questioning if he's going to get benched for Davis Mills. And then you don't even get to play Bo Nix. You played Jarrett Stidham, former Patriot, 1-3 career record. Hadn't thrown pass in 2 years. Jarrett Stidham in the AFC Championship game. Easy path to the Super Bowl. Here's the thing. Did you know the New England Patriots, and we'll show some graphics. Did you know the New England Patriots had one of the toughest paths to the Super Bowl ever when it comes to the defense that they were facing? Let's go and show those numbers. Stop saying the Patriots' path to the Super Bowl was easy. Top scoring defense in the NFL 2025. So from 1 to 10, Seahawks, Texans, who the Patriots played, Broncos, who the Patriots played, Patriots themselves, Philly, Kansas City, Minnesota, Jacksonville, Chargers, who they played, and then the Rams. So 3 of the top 10 scoring defense of football. The Patriots played all 3 of them, or played 3 of the 10 in the postseason, and they are 1 of those 10. Top 5 defenses in terms of total yards average or given up per game this year. Texans number 1, Patriots played them. Broncos number 2, Patriots played them. Vikings, Browns, Chargers, Patriots played them. And finally, New England is the first team since the 90s and the 3rd team in NFL history to get to the Super Bowl by beating a top 5 defense in every single playoff game. Cowboys in 1995, that's the last time Dallas won the Super Bowl. Sorry to remind you, Cowboys fans. John Elway's final team with the Broncos in 1998, the New England Patriots in 2025. And what it got me to thinking is that for years we used to hear about, the Patriot Way, Belichick and Brady, the Patriot Way. As Danny Amendola aptly pointed out, and I remember talking about in this show 5 years ago when Tom was in his final Super Bowl and when he was with the Bucs back in 2021. Danny Amendola, forget what show he went on, but he said, guys, it's the Tom Brady way. And we saw that, of course. Brady leaves to go to Tampa, wins the Super Bowl. Patriots go into complete obscurity, have one weird playoff year with Mac Jones. But prior to them firing Belichick, they were not a very good football team and not a good organization. Really, truly, Vrabel has built the Patriot way. Any argument for the Belichick-Brady collaboration to have been on equal footing, if not maybe Belichick having a slight upper hand, think of the year that would have applied. Now, I'm not going to tell you what I'm thinking. You formulate that in your own mind. What year would it have applied? Brady and Bill, either equal footing or Belichick actually has more to do with the title than Tom Brady. I say that to say this. Let's show Drake May's stats in this postseason because not great. Just as many turnovers as touchdowns, completion percentage in the mid-50s, 177 pass yards a game and 84 rating. But, of course, the most important stat of all, he's 3-0. Well, as we do a special segment every now and then on the show, that looks similar. Go ahead and show this. That looks awfully similar. So Drake May's on the left, mystery quarterbacks on the right. Both quarterbacks have as many turnovers as touchdowns in this particular postseason. Quarterback on the right's got a better completion and pass yards per game, but Drake May has a better passer rating. Both quarterbacks 3-0 in the postseason. Remember that question I just asked, right? What year with Tom Brady and Bill Belichick do you think maybe Belichick might have had more to do with the title? That would, of course, been 2001. Quarterback on the right, Tom Brady, back in 2001 when he won his first Super Bowl. Now, to Brady's credit, he obviously won Super Bowl MVP. He led the Patriots on that game-winning drive, and Terry walks it off against the greatest show on turf, Rams. But that Patriots defense held the Rams to 17 points. I mean, this is Kurt Warner. This is Marshall Faulk, guys like Bruce Torrey. I mean, this is one of the greatest offenses ever. Held them to under 20. And Tom obviously came up clutch when it mattered most in the fourth quarter. When you think about what New England's done this year in this postseason, it really, with the exception of Brady getting hurt against Pittsburgh and Bledsoe coming in to replace him, it almost directly mirrors that 0-1 championship, the first one in Patriots history that started their iconic dynasty. You won a snow game in there against the Raiders. You went on the road against a tough, hard-nosed, Bill Cowher coach Steelers defense. And then you went against a juggernaut offense in the Super Bowl in the St. Louis Rams. Now, the Pats have not faced a juggernaut offense, nor will they. The Seahawks are great. I gave Darnold his flowers. JSN is unguardable. Kenneth Walker run the football. Shaheed, Cooper, they got players. Barner, the tight end, great O-line. Seahawks are by far the best offense the Patriots are going to play in the postseason. Not quite the greatest show on turf, but you see the parallels there. Bad weather, crappy conditions on the road in some cases, like at Pittsburgh in the AFC title game, at Denver in the AFC title game. You've seen the parallels. Quarterbacks, a little shaky. That was Brady's first ever postseason. I think the Patriots scored like 3 offensive touchdowns the whole playoffs. That was a whole different era of the NFL. Drake May and the Pats, aside from a couple of nice runs against the Chargers, aside from a big-time throw to Keyshawn Boutte in the fourth quarter against Houston, it's been Vrabel in this defense. It's been guys like Splint. It's been guys like Christian Bleepin Gonzalez. And we did Bryson's best 10, top 10 players going into conference championship weekend. Christian Gonzalez was on the list. Boy, did he validate that. And has he validated that the entire season. I believe he might be the number 1 graded DB, either him or Devon Witherspoon, by Pro Football Focus. Had the interception late on Jarrett Stidham. So if you want to knock the Patriots' path to the Super Bowl and that they had an easy schedule, well, they did have an easy schedule, but what you going to do in the playoffs? What you going to do against the big bad defenses of the Chargers, of the Texans, of the Denver Broncos? Now, the offense has left some meat on the bone, to say the very least. The Pats' defense, which has kind of been, overshadowed all season long by, oh my gosh, Vrabel's amazing. We almost forget Vrabel's a defensive guy. And Drake May, oh my gosh, he's the league MVP and he's MVP candidate. And Stephon Diggs and all these offseason acquisitions. Well, let's not forget about the offseason acquisition of guys like Milton Williams, who came from the Philadelphia Eagles to help bolster the interior of that D-line. And so I thought, listen, it's far from aesthetically pleasing that there's not an element. Like the Rams are fun to watch. I mean, it's Stafford spreading all over and Puka making plays, and they're running with Kyron Williams, and they got to give up a lot of points. They got to win shootouts. This is the way that the Patriots, in theory, would like to play football. Now, they want more production of their offense. They want Drake May to play better, and I think he will in the Super Bowl. I do. But weather shouldn't be an issue. It's in Santa Clara. Shouldn't be a problem. Got the first jitters out of the way in that playoff game against the Chargers. Didn't play great in the first half. Solid in the second. Too many turnovers against Houston, but defense came up clutch. Hit the big-time throw to Keyshawn Boutte, his best throw of the playoffs. And obviously did fantastic work with his legs, running for the touchdown the first half. The tush push, in the third quarter, which helped New England get that field goal to make it a 10-7 ball game before the snow came down. If there's any argument for a Patriot Way back in the Belichick-Brady era, it would have been 2001. From there on, it was Brady. 2003, he was phenomenal against Carolina. He was great in the fourth quarter against Philadelphia. Obviously, Super Bowl against the Giants, but he won league MVP that year. 2011, Tom did his job. Patriots couldn't get a stop late. Wes Welker couldn't make a catch. 14, torch the Legion of Boom. 16, the iconic comeback in Atlanta. Now, Belichick was great in that Super Bowl against the Rams, but Brady was great in the previous game against Kansas City to get them there. So every Super Bowl they've appeared in since that 0-1 title, it was Brady. Belichick played part, but it was Brady. And we saw that with what he did in Tampa. This Pats team, I think we're going to see in future years. I'm not saying they're going to start their own dynasty yet. We don't know if they will or won't. Drake May will have better postseasons. No question about it. He's got the moxie. He's got the, there doesn't seem to be an element, even in his struggles, like, oh gosh, the moment looks a little too big for him. That has not been the case for Drake May and his performance, but this has been a Mike Vrabel team. If you want to say an MVP for the Patriots in the playoffs, head coach. And by the way, I'm sure you've seen the stat, the Tennessee Titans, who I think everybody in the football world were like, what the heck were they doing? They think Vrabel's the problem? The Tennessee Titans, since firing Mike Vrabel, have 6 wins. That's as many wins as the New England Patriots have since December 21st. So a month, a little over a month. Outstanding stuff. Drake May, after the game, talking about the Patriots getting to the Super Bowl.
Hey, that's what it's about. This is what we wanted to win, go to the Super Bowl. This is what all this year's been about. I love this team. Love playing for Coach. Thank you, Mr. Kraft and Jonathan Kraft. Shout out to the fans out there, man. We got the best fans in the nation, and we're going back to Super Bowl, baby. Let's go.
By the way, can Bob Kraft get in the Super Bowl? Or get in the Super Bowl? He's in another one. Can Bob Kraft get in the Hall of Fame? I mean, what are we doing? For years, and I was never like a crazy Robert Kraft like defender. It's weird to talk like defending an owner. We usually just talk about the bad owners because they need to stay out of sight, out of mind. But like Jerry Jones is in the Hall of Fame. Jerry Jones, we all know, last made a Super Bowl in 1995. The Patriots have been to 11 since then. 11 of their 12 Super Bowl appearances came with Bob Kraft as the owner. He's doing something right, okay? So he went to the Super Bowl before Brady and Belichick got there. Obviously, the 9 appearances with Brady and Belichick. And Brady got kicked out the back door by Bill. Bill ran the organization into the ground. Fires Bill, brings in Jerome Mayo. That didn't work. Brings in Vrabel, an established coach, and they're back in the Super Bowl in 1 year. Outstanding stuff. For Denver. So I got to admit, and I don't mean this as a disrespect to the Broncos. I was really, really surprised at the number of people who picked Denver to win this game. Again, not in the sense like, oh, there's just this bunch of frauds. And because I'll be honest, I did, going into the postseason, I said, this is the worst number 1 seed that I've seen in a playoff since, ironically, a team Mike Vrabel coached, the 2021 Titans. It's like, yeah, that's not the best team in the conference. Like, there's no way. Kansas City's better, Buffalo's better, Cincinnati's better. Kudos to Denver for winning that game against Buffalo. Courtesy of Josh Allen, turned the ball over 4 times. But that's how it goes in the postseason. Whoever makes the fewest mistakes almost always wins. And Denver was able to do that last week. But with Bo Nix gone, their clutch playmaker gone, Jarrett Stidham, God bless him. He did what he could. Let's show Jarrett Stidham's numbers. He did what he could. A touchdown early, had the interception late to Gonzalez, 54% completion, 133 through the air, 63 rating, 19 QBR. He played about the way you expect a backup quarterback against a great defense in the AFC Championship game, having not started in 2 years, would play. To me, the Denver Broncos lost this game in the second quarter. So early on, and I want to say this before I even get into my breakdown. Anyone that's watched me for any length of time knows that it's like a maxim of mine when it comes to coaching in football, whether it comes to how front offices should do business when they're in positions to contend. Take a big swing. Go for it. I mean, throw caution to the wind. The aggressive ones are who win championships. So I'm generally a pro go for it on 4th down. Maybe not quite to the level Dan Campbell is with the Detroit Lions, but like a step below that. That's why I've always defended Dan. Ben Johnson's the same way. Dan Quinn with the Commanders has been the same way. It's almost become like common practice in the NFL to go for it on 4th down. In short, if you have an opportunity to convert, keep the drive going. Absolutely. Here's the problem. Denver's obviously the underdog coming in. Denver obviously has the gigantic advantage at quarterback going into this game. Sean Payton knows that. I know Sean Payton tooted, Jarrett Stidham's horn the entire week. Kudos to him. He's trying to inflate the confidence of his quarterback. Yep, he's a quarterback whisperer. That's what they do. But Denver goes up 7-0 early. We'll show you the numbers, just suffocating New England's offense. This is before the snow came down. For those that may have not missed the game, snow doesn't come down until mid to late third quarter. And it did become like a legit problem until the 4th quarter. So basically the first hour and a half before that, New England did nothing offensively. Denver's got the ball, 4th down and short, deep into New England territory. Would have been a very makeable field goal for Will Lutz, who has been a clutch kicker all year for Denver. 4th and short, he decides to go for it, and they get stopped. So here's the thing. Number one, you could tell Sean Payton had doubts about it because of how long it took for them to get the play call in, and by virtue, having to burn a timeout and have them discuss it. Then they come back out, go for it, and get stopped. So it was already like, oh, should we? And Sean Payton's a Hall of Fame coach. You got to know that going in. That's number one. Number two, I talked about how they suffocated the Patriots offense. The numbers bear it out. This is before the Broncos went for 'em fourth down. I mean, there you go. The Patriots ran 12 plays. They got just as many yards, and they had one first down. Like this Broncos defense, and ironically, it wasn't necessarily a result of Nick Bonito. I thought Nick Bonito was going to be the Broncos MVP if they were to win this game against Will Campbell. Will Campbell did his job. You know, there were some chips there on the part of tight ends, running backs. Will Campbell did his job. Rookie against Nick Bonito, one of the best pass rushers in the game. But Drake May was a little off. There were some drop passes. They couldn't run the ball that effectively. Didn't look that good for the Patriots. If you go up 10-0, momentum really shifts in your favor in a low-scoring game this is going to be with two elite defenses. Not to mention, here's the thing. Even if you do get the first down, Jarrett Stidham's your quarterback. There's no guarantee you're going to score in that spot. So when you're up 10-0, which obviously they end up getting stopped short, Patriots end up punting it to the Broncos. That's when Jarrett Stidham commits the egregious turnover. Should have been ruled a touchdown. That was a gaffe by the officials. Didn't matter. Drake May ran it in. Soon after, the game completely flips. And it's like, okay, New England's going to win this game. Denver had to play keep away from New England. They had to be able to play mistake-free football against New England, not turn the ball over. Obviously, Stidham had 2 turnovers, one that led directly to a Patriots touchdown, then the last one that was his last, pass of the season. And so I think Sean Payton's a phenomenal coach, Hall of Famer, no question about it. And I tend to be a pro-aggressive coach decision guy. It's why I used to rip Mike Tomlin. Mike Tomlin was the most conservative fourth down and short coach I've seen in the last decade. It's like, oh my God. Like, I love Chris Boswell too. I know he's a psychopath. I get it. Let's keep this drive going. Let's keep the momentum going. You're not just going to win this game by field goals. But in a game like this, I mean, listen, Sean Payton had to have some idea. As the head coach of the Broncos, he had to have some idea weather could be a factor in this game in the second half. I mean, I'm sure he had a radar. I know Broncos fans had to have known. They had to dress accordingly. So I thought that was the wrong call on Sean Payton's part. I really did. And again, I'm not saying the Broncos win the game. If the opposite field goal Will Lutz makes it 10-0, not saying they win the game, but certainly a lot harder for New England to get the job done when you consider the fact it took a Jarrett Stidham fumble to get New England a short field touchdown. It took New England putting together a 9-minute drive to get a field goal of their own to make it 10-7, and that ended up being the final score before the weather kicked in. So it was still a few plays. This is how it works in the NFL, especially once you get down to the 4 best teams left. A few plays can decide it. And situational execution, like that's another thing, man, about Vrabel, is that so much of what makes or breaks a team in the postseason and over the course of any football game, we talk about who makes the fewest mistakes, but just not beating yourself. New England does not beat themselves. This is what we saw with Indiana in the college football playoff. Like they just did not beat themselves. They did not put themselves behind the 8 ball with unforced errors. And Denver did. And Sean Payton talked about Jarrett Stidham's performance after the game.
Thought he fought hard in tough conditions. I think we're going to look at the film. I know this. I'm going to look at it and be critical of myself. And I think there were a number of things that we just had to do better. We didn't finish some runs. We dropped some passes again. Felt like that was a problem all year. Early when we had the momentum, we didn't it felt like, let's just say, most of the first half, and we didn't come away with enough having had that momentum and that field position.
And that's, again, it's the little things like that can decide playoff games. I think you saw that with the Broncos. Okay. So away from playoff football for a moment. I was dreading this. I was not. Let's just say I had a bad feeling that we were going to end up doing this. So the reason I say that, Friday night, when we did the show Friday night, I specifically warned the Pittsburgh Steelers not to hire Mike McCarthy for a number of reasons that we'll get into in just a moment. And less than 24 hours later, they hired Mike McCarthy. And by the way, signed him to a 5-year deal. So this is not, and we know how Pittsburgh is, 3 coaches in 57 years. They want this to be a long-term thing. Now, Mike McCarthy is 62 years old, so you imagine he's not going to be there certainly as long as Tomlin was. But I thought about it this weekend, kind of marinated on it. It's been 48 hours since the news broke. McCarthy to the Steelers. Here's where I'm at. Number one, we have to admit one thing first. And I'll get to why I'm still at best iffy on this hiring. At least the Steelers upgraded at coach. You're like, oh my gosh, Bryce. I mean, McCarthy over Tomlin, you're out of your mind? As fate would have it, the day Tomlin stepped down, went on the show 2 weeks ago and said, guys, Mike Tomlin's Mike McCarthy with a better PR team. Can we show those, the similarities? Tomlin 19 seasons, McCarthy 18. Tomlin 13 playoff appearances, McCarthy 12. Both have 8 division titles. Tomlin has a much better winning percentage, 628 to 608, but Mike McCarthy has a better playoff record, 11-11 versus 8-12 for Mike Tomlin. You say, Bryce, it's still, I mean, come on. Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers, and we'll get to that in just a moment. Mike McCarthy had Aaron Rodgers, and then he didn't have quite Aaron Rodgers and Dak Prescott, but Dak Prescott's top 10 level quarterback. Mike Tomlin was just dealing with bums throughout his career in Pittsburgh. Oh, okay, so future first ballot Hall of Famer and 2-time Super Bowl champion, 3-time Super Bowl participant, Big Ben Roethlisberger is all of a sudden a bum because he had Big Ben for all of his prime, did Mike Tomlin. In fact, can we show that graphic? Seasons where Tomlin and McCarthy won a playoff game, McCarthy is almost double Tomlin. Years Tomlin won a playoff game, 08, 2010, 2015, 2016. Hasn't won since. McCarthy, 07, 2010, 2012, 2014, 2015, 2016, 2022. So they get the most out of the elite quarterbacks they've had. Part of the reason, too, almost by definition, McCarthy is an upgrade over Tomlin. Increasingly, and I know oddly the Super Bowl features 2 defensive coaches, but both with elite offensive coordinators. You need that. It's an offensive league. Mike McCarthy is an offensive guy. And what I've always said, and this is part of the reason I made my case all season long. Tomlin's not the guy. Tomlin's not nearly the coach that people make him out to be. Not bad, just not great. What's your side of the ball? How good is it? Let's look at Mike McCarthy, where his offense is ranked in Green Bay and in Dallas his whole career. Go and put up that graphic. So Green Bay and Dallas. So 06 with some breaks in 2020 and 2025. So here we go. McCarthy's offense is ranked 9th, 2nd, 8th, 6th, 9th, 3rd, 13th, 3rd, 6th, 23rd, bad year, 8th, 26th, bad year, 12th, 14th, 1st, 11th, 5th, 17th. For those that are keeping track, for Mike McCarthy, that is a total of 11 top 10 offenses in his career. Mike Tomlin's a defensive coach. Let's see the Steelers ranked on that side of the ball. Some great years to start because he inherited Cowher's team. 1st, 5th, 2nd, 1st, 13th, 18th, 21st, 12th, 5th, 6th, 5th, 3rd, 24th, 13th, 21st, 12th. This year, 26th. Those that are counting 10 top 10 defenses for Mike Tomlin, none in the last 5 years, despite having the highest paid defense in football, which the Pittsburgh Steelers had. So I can at least say the Steelers are going through this in baby steps. My preference, hire a young, offensive-minded coach. Part of the reason you go young is because, hey, that's kind of what the Steelers do. Chuck Noll, Bill Cowher, Mike Tomlin are all pretty young guys when they got the job. I kind of liked Nate Shieldhouse for the Rams. I still think he's going to be really, really good, whoever gets him, unless it's the Browns, because the Browns screw everything up. Go in that direction. Tear it down. Rebuild this thing. Well, Mike McCarthy, as I mentioned earlier, he's 62 years old. He's not going to stick around for a rebuild. Frankly, Art Rooney II, much to my chagrin, said to the media last week, yeah, we're not trying to rebuild in Pittsburgh, which I think is a colossal mistake. But to the McCarthy numbers as it pertains to where his offense is ranked, and you heard me say, again, 11 top 10 offenses in his career. You say, well, but Dak's good. Dak's excellent. That's an Aaron Rodgers stat. Yes and no. Can we show Aaron Rodgers with Mike McCarthy in the playoffs and Aaron Rodgers without Mike McCarthy in the playoffs? Because with McCarthy, those are pretty excellent numbers. 36 touchdowns, 10 picks. You'll take that TD to INT ratio any day of the week. 63% completion, 278 yards a game, 99 rating, and a 9-7 record. And obviously, he won a Super Bowl with McCarthy. Without McCarthy, you're like, well, he wasn't in his prime. He won 2 MVPs without McCarthy, so it wasn't bad. And 9 touchdowns, 4 picks, 66% completion, 263 through the air per game, 94 rating, and he's 1-3. I mean, his last playoff win came in the COVID season. Mike McCarthy has won a playoff game more recently than Aaron Rodgers. Not saying he was more valuable to his Packers teams. Aaron Rodgers is an all-time legend, but McCarthy had something to do with that. He worked with Favre. He worked with Rodgers. He worked with Dak. Never forget, Mike Tomlin had a stretch from 2011 to 2014. He did not win a single playoff game with prime Big Ben Roethlisberger. So the Steelers upgraded at coach. I have no questions about that. And as the Rooney's pointed out, aptly, Mike McCarthy gets the most out of his quarterbacks. Mike McCarthy develops quarterbacks. As a matter of fact, it was reported that he is intrigued with the idea of working with Will Howard, who's obviously 7th-round pick, national champion at Ohio State. I'm not crazy high on the kid. My mindset is, hey, let's give him this year. I don't like this quarterback draft at all outside of Fernando Mendoza. Let's give Will Howard a year, see how he plays, draft somebody in a much better 2027 quarterback class. But I know he can get the most out of his quarterbacks. Brett Favre looks like he was falling off the cliff. Gets to an NFC Championship game with him in 07. Aaron Rodgers won 2 league MVPs with Mike McCarthy. And obviously, as we all know, his second year in the league, his second year sitting behind Favre, that's when McCarthy got the job. So Aaron Rodgers sat 2 years behind Favre with McCarthy as the coach. You think McCarthy had something to do with that development? Something? And with Dak Prescott, who was already established by the time McCarthy got there, Dak almost won a league MVP. The 1 year that the 1 full year Mike McCarthy called plays for him. That's something. So do I think he can get the most out of an offense that it's got players? Freiermuth, Washington, Metcalf, I still kind of want to move, but Metcalf's still an effective player. Jalen Warren, I kind of hope the Steelers bring back Kenneth Gainwell. Can he hire a good staff? Well, 3 of Mike McCarthy's former assistants are head coaches right now. Kellen Moore, Dan Quinn, Brian Schottenheimer. Can't say that about a single one of Mike Tomlin's assistants for 19 years. So the Steelers upgraded at coach. I have no questions about that. They're going to the right side of the football. I like that. Their rationale, they said this, because initially I was like, oh my God, is this a ploy to bring back Aaron Rodgers? I'm going to lose my mind. It still might be. We'll see. Better not be. But the Rooney said, yeah, that didn't factor in our decision. Is he lying? We'll see. My issue with the hiring more than anything is that as good of an offensive coach as McCarthy is, and again, the numbers speak for itself, offenses are good at wherever he goes, is that this feels like Mike is from Pittsburgh. He's a Yinzer, grew up in this area, started his coaching career, I believe, at Pitt, if I'm not mistaken, the Pitt Panthers in college football. This feels like the perfect culmination of his career. He's coached with the iconic Green Bay Packers. He coached with the iconic Dallas Cowboys. Well, the Steelers themselves are pretty iconic, 6-time Super Bowl champions. He's from here. This is perfect. He finished his career with us. This, again, feels to me like the Steelers are saying, we can't do it. We cannot have a bad season. Where it's like, it really is okay. I trust me. I've talked to Steelers fans. Steelers fans have voiced their thoughts on social media and otherwise. Steelers fans want the team to be bad next year. We want to finally get a franchise quarterback post Big Ben. We want to stop forgoing the future just so we can win 9 games, 10 games in the present, get the doors blown off as the postseason. That's what this move kind of signifies to me. That's why they hung on to Tomlin. for as long as they did, despite the fact, and I'll show this graphic a million times if I have to, despite the fact that he had the longest playoff or losing streak in NFL history, tied with Marvin Lewis. That's why they hung on to Mike Tomlin, despite the fact that with the Steelers being the highest paid defense the last half decade, they were never top 10. But again, McCarthy, offensive side of the football, that's good. I wanted an offensive guy. It looked like they were probably going to go Flores, who I would have preferred more. I like Flores. Shula, yeah, I'm kind of glad they didn't hire Shula now. Or Anthony Weaver, who the Dolphins' defenses weren't great, but Anthony Weaver has a presence. As we see with Dan Campbell, that matters. They upgraded at coach. They got the right side of the ball. They got somebody who can develop a quarterback. He has a track record of doing so. But is this move about that? Is this move about the Pittsburgh Steelers saying, you know what? We're coming to our senses. It's an offensive league. Well, Bryce, the two coaches of the Super Bowl defensive guys. Yes, both have excellent offensive coordinators, though. Josh McDaniels with Mike Vrabel with the Patriots and Clint Kubiak with Mike McDonald and the Seahawks. Like, you need offensive masterminds calling the plays. You do. You have to have it. Is this move more about that? Or is it his track record is what it is? We're never going to be bad with him. Just like we were never going to be bad with Tomlin. Sometimes you need to bottom out so that you can rebuild this thing. Look at the New England Patriots. Garbage. Belichick ran them to the ground with bad picks, bad staffs, couldn't develop, moved on, tried to draw Mayo, that didn't work, bring in an established guy like Mike Vrabel, and look where they're at now. Steelers, I promise, it's okay to bottom out. I still maintain, because one thing that Steelers fans should feel fantastic about, Steelers got a lot of draft capital. Go and show this graph, because I was looking at this, I'm like, wow, they got a ton of assets this year. Obviously, they have a first-round pick, second-round pick. They have 3 third-round picks, one of them by virtue. Thank you very much, Dallas Cowboys, for taking George Pickens off our hands. Got a third-round pick off Dallas. 2 fourth-round picks, fifth-round pick, 3 sixth-rounders, and 2 seventh-rounders. Like, the Steelers have tons of assets. In 2026, when it comes to draft capital, they can be able to kind of manipulate those picks if they don't necessarily like the draft positioning of a guy. Because I think Steelers would drafting, I think 21st, if I'm not mistaken. They're not looking at a situation where, okay, we don't know if we like this guy at this spot. We might like him at 25. We can trade down, get more picks. Hopefully Omar Khan is that proactive. We'll see. Rebuild the O-line, address the defenses, which has been terrible, cut some of those bad salaries on that defense. As much as I hate to say it, trade TJ Watt. I still maintain they need to do that. Get what you can from, for TJ services now, while he's still effective, before the decline completely falls off a cliff. Get that bad contract off the books. Same with Jalen Ramsey, same with DK Metcalf. If Cam Hayward wants to finish the Steeler, got no problem with that. I love Cam Hayward. The blueprint is there. They did get an offensive coach, which I wanted. It's more about what the hire of McCarthy represents, so much as it is his ability. His ability, it speaks for itself. I remember talking about McCarthy when he was in Dallas. I'm like, he's not a great coach. I mean, the clock mismanagement, like I know, I know next season I'm going to come into the show on Mondays. McCarthy blew it with the clock. I know I am. That's his Achilles heel. It always has been. Green Bay, Dallas, I'm sure in Pittsburgh. Not a perfect coach. But again, results speak for themselves. Has some pretty dang good offenses. 9th, 2nd, 8th, 6th, 9th, 3rd, 13th, 3rd, 6th, 23rd, bad year in 15, 8th, 26th, 12th, 14th, 1st, 11th, 5th, 17th. He's had more top 10 offenses in his career than Mike Tomlin has had top 10 defenses. Aaron Rodgers had the best years of his career with McCarthy. Dak Prescott had the best years of his career with McCarthy. Brett Favre had his career resurgence with McCarthy before he went to the Jets and then Minnesota. Guy can coach offense. Guy can coach quarterbacks. His game management, that's his Achilles heel. He's not very good at it. That was a knock I had on Tomlin. The game management from Tomlin was bad in fourth quarters. But the more I thought about it, initially when I saw the news, I was like, oh my God, you've got to be kidding me. Are they going to try and bring Aaron back? And based on the reporting now, it doesn't sound like it. I pray to the good Lord Almighty they don't. Because bringing back Aaron Rodgers, okay, get the bad leader in the locker room, and now you have no direction on what you're doing in 2026 because you're dang sure not a Super Bowl contender and you're not going to be bad enough to get a top pick. That, to me, is going to determine how the McCarthy era in Pittsburgh kicks off. But all in all, they could have done worse. They could have hired Chris Shula. See how the Rams defense looked at the end of the year? Not great. They could have hired, I don't think Arthur Smith got an interview with the team. They could have hired some inexperienced guy who maybe doesn't have a lot of upside on the defensive side of the football. It really looks like that's where the Steelers are going to end up going. McCarthy's established. McCarthy's an excellent offensive coach. McCarthy's a great quarterback developer. Baby steps by the Steelers in the right direction of how the NFL works today. I'll give the guy a chance. I'll give him a chance. I will. I think it'd be unfair if I didn't. Let's see how it works. Do not bring Aaron Rodgers back. Please, for the love of God, get some of those bad defensive contracts off the books. Move those players, get more picks. Again, show what the Steelers have. Ton of draft picks in 2026. Can do that in 2027. Draft your quarterback next year. Build the O-line, defense. Blueprints right in front of the Steelers. Just a matter of whether or not they execute it. We're going to take a break. When we come back, more of a serious topic. I did want to discuss what's been going on in our country in the last 40 hours, particularly in Minneapolis. I know you all know what I'm talking about. Get to that in just 1 minute here on Carving Up Live. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Carving Up Live. I appreciate everybody for stopping by on a Monday. So, I wish the most irritated or mad or confused that I would get on the show is from the Mike McCarthy hiring with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I wish that were the case. I wish we were in a state in this country where, and listen, we always gonna have problems, but where that's going to be the main focus of my show. But recent events won't allow me to do that. As y'all know, this is primarily, I'd say 85 to 90% of sports show, 50% anything else. Politics, entertainment. And this topic really isn't that much about politics. It's just about basic valuing of human life and what you want America to be. So as I'm sure as you all saw, Saturday morning, man by the name of Alex Pretty in Minneapolis was gunned down by ICE agents. For those who didn't see the video, we're not going to show it because there's angles that are pretty disturbing. But basically, ICE was walking around Minneapolis. They shoved a woman to the ground. Alex Pretty happened to be in the area. He's got his phone out, as a lot of people have, to record ICE to make sure, hey, we're not going to be gaslit on what these people are doing. We want to show you, hey, trust your eyes. This is what's going on in our city and cities all over the country where ICE agents have had presence. Woman gets shoved to the ground. Alex Pretty is defending her. He gets shoved to the ground. They both get pepper sprayed, and Alex Pretty is grabbed. He was armed. He was carrying a gun legally. We'll get to that in a moment. They take the gun, and after he is at the point that he is unarmed, they shoot him 10 times, and he lost his life. And so I've talked about at length, back when the controversy was going on with Stephen Colbert losing his show, which is going to happen this May, with Jimmy Kimmel being suspended because of a joke, not about Charlie Kirk, a joke about Trump disregarding Charlie Kirk's death. That so much of those who back Trump and so much of the MAGA movement, First Amendment, well, you're taking late night show hosts off the air because they're joking about against the president. So that doesn't seem too pro First Amendment. But if there's one thing that we know, many folks on the right side of the aisle, particularly those that support Donald Trump, man, that Second Amendment, you better not, don't you come after my guns now. Well, Alex Pretty was legally carrying a firearm, and can we show the Second Amendment here live on Carving It Up? I feel like that's pretty instructive. Here's the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's the argument, is that if the government goes rogue against its people, people have a right to defend themselves. Alex Pretty was not pointing a gun at the ICE agent. He was pointing his phone at the ICE agent. One could argue maybe an even more deadly weapon because of what these people are doing and how the people in Minneapolis and all over America are exposing it. So I thought you were for the Second Amendment. I also thought, see, this one is getting brought up a ton, but I imagine just when I read it, you're like, absolutely, I'm for that. Put up the Fourth Amendment of the United States Constitution because the ICE is directly violating this. Fourth Amendment, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. Simply put, you cannot be arrested. People cannot enter your home or violate your person, essentially, unless they have probable cause. ICE agents, as we're seeing, are directly violating that. Because we saw with Renee Nicole Good 2 weeks ago, as we saw with Alex Pretty on Saturday, these aren't illegal immigrants. These aren't people that are hiding from the government, that are trying to hide in the country. These aren't criminals. Renee Nicole Good was a poet. Alex Pretty, folks. Alex Pretty was the best of us. This man was an ICU nurse at the VA. He took care of vets. Don't we hold, as we should, by the way, don't we hold in this country our vets to like a different pedestal of respect and honor, that they were willing to put their lives on the line to defend our freedoms here at home? God bless every single one of them. That guy took care of them at the VA. That guy served his country by serving the people who served this country. That guy, his final act of his life was protecting a woman who just got shoved to the ground. There's a big discussion, as there should be, and I've even discussed it on the show, about masculinity and about, the crisis among young men, which is a very, very real thing. There were a lot of men in that situation. Be like the man who tried to help the woman, not like the so-called men who shoved a woman down. 12 on 1, by the way. Numbers advantage, weapons advantage, shoved a woman to the ground. Something else I thought those that were in the MAGA movement were for is states' rights. Last I checked, ICE, those are federal agents. They work for the United States government. They don't work for the government in the state of Minnesota. They don't work. They don't work for Governor Walz or any of those working in that state in politics. They work for the executive, or not necessarily for the executive branch per se, but they certainly work for the United States government. Going into cities like, wait a second, states' rights, right? The governor, in any time that the military comes into cities, it's almost, the National Guard, it's by request of the governor. If there's unrest, if there's violence. To use a historical example, those of you know me know I'm a lifelong student of American history. Right after the Civil War, 13th Amendment gets passed, 13th, 14th Amendments get passed, giving, in abolishing slavery, giving black people, black men, I guess at that time, the right to vote in these southern states in particular. These governors in these southern states would call upon, the executive branch to send federal troops into the hotbeds of southern violence to combat the KKK, to combat all of these people that are perpetuating violence against black people, newly free black people, so that they could vote, so that they could hold some sort of political power. Donald Trump is doing this because Minnesota, as we all know, is one of the most liberal states in the country. I'm sure it's not lost on the president that the governor of the state was his political opponent's running mate in the previous presidential election, Tim Walz, who ran with Kamala Harris. Ultimately, my question would be pretty simple. When you see the images in Minneapolis, Renee Nicole Good, who, again, you know what your eyes told you. You see from the front angle of her car, from the back angle that everybody saw of her car, her wheels turning right. She was not trying to kill or run over the ICE agent. She's trying to flee the scene, which, by the way, I believe it was Tennessee v. Gardner, 1984 Supreme Court decision. You cannot, you cannot shoot a fleeing suspect unless they present a legitimate, threat to anybody, to you or to somebody else. Renee Nicole Good was fleeing the scene. I know Alex Pretty was not a threat in that situation. He had a gun, which he was legally allowed to carry. Wasn't trying to attack the officers with his weapon, as we know Kyle Rittenhouse did in Wisconsin back in 2020, and the Trump MAGA group, they love them some Kyle Rittenhouse. There's unrest, there's violence. Hey, you can bring a weapon to the scene. Alex Pretty has one on his person. The phone is what's in his hand, not the firearm. And he shot 10 times. 2 questions I'd have. Do we want to continue to trust the people who, as George Orwell would said, the most essential command is not to believe our eyes? Thank God for social media. Thank God for these having cameras on our phones, in our pockets, so we can document this stuff. The people in charge are telling us what you are seeing, you're actually not seeing that. Peak gaslighting by the president, vice president, secretary of Homeland Security on down. What you're seeing, that's actually not what you're seeing. Christy Noem's talking about, Alex Pretty presented this threat. What threat? Helping a woman up? Defending a woman who got shoved down by a coward? What do we teach our kids in schools? If we see someone getting bullied, you stand up to the bully. You stand up for the one getting bullied. It's gotten reversed now with the people that are in charge. My second question. It's been a year. Are we great again yet? Are we? Is this what America being great looks like? Masked, untrained gunmen in the street, terrorizing not just immigrants, but United States citizens. Oh, Alex Pretty, he escalated the situation again by helping a woman up who got shoved down by ICE agents. Really? Phone in his hand. And by the way, you're like, well, he was armed. Well, they took the gun from him and still shot him 10 times. Is this what you want America to be? Where ICE is judge, jury, and executioner in the streets, in broad daylight, in everyday America? So as infuriating as this all is, here's the thing that does give me hope. And, the Warriors were initially scheduled, they're on a back-to-back playing in Minnesota against the Timberwolves. They were initially scheduled to play on Saturday. NBA officials, Adam Silver was like, it's probably not safe given the circumstances. We're going to postpone the game a day to yesterday, and they're playing the Timberwolves again tonight. before they fly to, I forget where their next game is at. And Steph Curry talked about it in particular. I mean, when it's negative 10 degrees outside on a Saturday, by the way, like, people can have the right to do whatever they want to do on their Saturdays. They choose. I'm going to go out in negative 10 degree weather because what's going on outside is wrong. What these people are doing to our city, to our community is wrong. Did you know also Minneapolis PD, according to reports, did not shoot a single person last year? ISIS shot 3 this month. The people are standing up. The most essential part of a democracy, heck, the part of the way this country was founded to begin with. Anger at a tyrannical government. Read about the founding fathers. Read about John Adams and Patrick Henry and Thomas Jefferson and Hamilton and Washington. All of the heroes we think about from that time in American history. Biggest thing they had in common, they were outraged at being treated as less than by King George and by the crown. The American people are seeing this. Don't believe the legions of bot accounts that are probably run in Russia or anywhere that does not want America to succeed. And certainly don't believe the worst. Nick Wright said this best. The worst of humanity, the Clay Travises of the world, the Megyn Kellys of the world, any of these conservative pundits who claim patriotism. Listen to the everyday American citizens. Ask them if what they think going on right now, what happened to Alex Pretty, an ICU nurse in the VA taking care of our vets, if they think that was a good thing, if they think that's the way that things should go about in the United States. If untrained or minimally trained agents who, after the immediate death of Pretty, one of them says, it's on video, it's kind of like Call of Duty, dude. Comparing the massacre of a real human being to a video game. That's who we've got patrolling the streets of the United States of America. As long as the people continue to stand up, continue to protest, continue to go on their platforms, whatever that may be, and speak truth to power, not giving money to corporations that supports ICE, calling your senators and congresspeople to demand that they do not vote on Wednesday to give more funding to ICE. As long as we continue to do that, the people, as is always, the arc of moral history is long, but it bends towards justice. Stay on it. Stay vigilant. Fight like hell. It's going to be tough. It's going to be, I have a sick feeling I'm going to probably be doing more segments like this in the future, but we will win. And so my prayers, I mean, my prayers are with the family and loved ones of Alex Pretty. I cannot, just another thing too, and we talked about this with Nicole Good a couple of weeks ago in that segment that I put on YouTube. Imagine being the families of these people who go from nationally obscure to the national government is calling them terrorists. Think about that. Renee Nicole Good, according to J.D. Vance, engaged, quote, on an attack on the American people. Alex Pretty was posed a threat, was a terrorist, domestic terrorist, with 12 ICE agents. Had been disarmed, lost his life, defending a woman, by the way. A man who served vets, his final act of his life was in service of someone in trouble. So everything that MAGA claimed to be about, the Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the First Amendment, states' rights, the Constitution, which Donald Trump back in 2022 said, and I quote, when referring to the 2020 election, which obviously we know he lost, but he won't refuse to believe that. He said, a massive fraud of this type of magnitude allows for the termination of all rules, regulations, and articles, even those found in the Constitution. We should get rid of the very document that the president swears upon, or swears in the presidential oath to preserve, protect, and defend. So belief in the Constitution, First Amendment, Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, states' rights, all goes out the back door with this administration because they're insecure, cowardly, and on a power trip. Just to frighten as many citizens as they can into submission. Got bad news for them. They must not know much about the American people because we don't take too kindly to that. Keep protesting, keep fighting. Do not relent in this battle. Because if we don't let up, we will win. And with that, I hate to end the show on a note like this, but this is the America we live in. This is the reality of our situation, and it's up to us to fight against it. To fight ICE, this administration, and the fascist ideas that they are trying to shove down our throats as Americans. Hell no. Hope everybody has a great week. Please continue to stay safe out there. We will be back on the show on Wednesday. Same time as usual, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time, right here on YouTube, as well as on Twitch, Facebook, X, and on Instagram. Appreciate everybody for stopping by. Again, fun show the first hour. A lot of football, obviously. But when it's all said and done, this is the country we live in. Peacefully protest, certainly. No question. But in that manner, fight till we get the America that we deserve. Have a great week, everybody. Stay safe out there. God bless y'all. Peace out. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.